Eric Contender, the amazing dog training man, and thanks for watching episode 2 of Train Your Dog TV. Today we're going to talk about chewing and destructive behavior. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I get a lot of emails and a lot of questions from new dog owners, especially when they have a new puppy. That's when chewing tends to be really a big problem. And also I get questions from people that have older dogs that become very destructive. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So this is what you need to understand about chewing. Your dog has a physical and psychological need to use their teeth and jaws. They really have to get something in their mouth when they're young, especially, and they need to chew on it, okay? It relieves stress for them, and their teeth are coming through their gums, and their jaws hurt a little bit, and the chewing relieves that. So if you have a young dog, a puppy, and you're having a chewing problem, you want to make sure that you provide them with a lot of stuff to chew on. And be careful of stuffed animals, because you might find it all over your house. And I like this one because there's no stuffing. So that's the one I give a lot of my dogs. So your dog has a physical and psychological need to chew, so you need to provide them something to chew on. Now, if your dog is having a chewing problem, remember what I always teach and what I wrote about in my book, The Amazing Dog Training Man. In my book, I talked about the MUT method, and this is a method that I came up to help dog owners. Whenever you're faced with a problem, I want you to remember the acronym M-U-T-T, MUT. Okay, because if your dog has a chewing problem, the first thing in the MUT method, the first step is manage the behavior. So whatever the behavior problem, chewing, house training, digging, whatever the problem is, manage the behavior. That's what you do short term. Okay, so if I have a dog that has a really big chewing problem, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to manage his behavior so he doesn't or she doesn't have the option to chew my shoes and the TV remote and the siding on my house and everything else. I'm going to manage the behavior, and I'll do that by using a crate, and we'll talk about crates in another episode, but don't freak out. Crate training is very good for dogs, but I would use a crate, a baby gate. I would manage the dog's behavior by bringing them to a dog daycare. I would do these types of things so that the dog does not have the opportunity to fail. Because if I have a 4-month-old puppy and I give him complete run, complete freedom in the house, and I leave for 8 hours, I'm going to come home and I'm going to get angry. And if this happens day after day after day, I'm going to get frustrated. And then what happens is the dog ends up paying for the owner's anger. It's really not the dog's fault. You do not want to punish your dog when you come home. But I'll get to that in a second. So first thing is manage the behavior. Second thing is, what's the underlying reason? Whenever you're dealing with a behavior problem, there's an underlying reason. So let's take digging, for example. If your dog is digging, your dog could be digging because they're hot and they want to get into a nice cool place. Your dog could be digging because it's a terrier, and terriers were bred to dig. Okay? Your dog could be digging because he's frustrated. There's something on the other side of the fence that he wants to get to. And with chewing, it's the same thing. We want to figure out, what's the underlying problem. Why is the dog chewing? Is it a puppy? Is it frustrated? Is it stressed? Once we figure out what the underlying problem is, then we can start to follow the T. Remember, M-U-T-T. And the first T is for training and teaching. We want to teach your dog what's acceptable to chew on and what's unacceptable to chew on. All right? And you have to understand this. Dogs do not understand right from wrong. They are amoral creatures. I know she's wicked cute. Okay, and she looks like she knows right from wrong, but she doesn't. What she understands is acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior. And what we have to teach your dog is, this is acceptable to chew on, my shoes are unacceptable to chew on. Okay? So we have to teach them what to chew on. And then the last step, the final T, is time. It takes time to change behavior. And if your dog has a very ingrained behavior, you got to give it at least 21 days. Think of a smoker, someone that smokes cigarettes. The first day they quit, it's kind of tough. 3 days later, it starts to get easier. 21 days later, they're kind of over the hump. And that's what happens with dogs also, is we got to give them some time. So the first step, let's just back up a second. So we've got to manage the behavior. We've got to figure out what the underlying problem is. We've got to teach or train the dog new behaviors, and then we have to give it some time. So with chewing, I always recommend, as I said, using a crate, keeping a very close eye on the dog, and then you start to teach them what's acceptable and unacceptable. And the best way to do this is by using taste deterrents. What's a taste deterrent? A taste deterrent is something that you see in the store all the time. You've probably seen bitter apple, sour grapes. Now, before you start saying, I've used that and it didn't work, let me explain how taste deterrents work. Most people use taste deterrents the wrong way. Okay? Your dog has to make an association with a taste deterrent before you ever use it. So, this is how you make an association. You go out, you get the bitter apple, you come home, you spray a little bit of it on some cheese. You give it to your dog, you offer it to him. Now if your dog sniffs it and eats it, guess what your dog is telling you? I like that taste deterrent. So when you go and spray it on your shoes and on the molding in your house, your dog's going to say, oh, look at that, she spiced it up for me. Now I can really dig in. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to make sure the taste deterrent is going to work before we use it. So if I spray a taste deterrent on a piece of cheese and I offer it to the dog, and the dog sniffs it and goes, ugh, or the dog takes it in his mouth and spits it out, what has the dog just told me? The dog has just told me I do not like that. And your dog has also now made an association through his strongest sense, which is his sense of smell. And then what I do is I'll spray it again on a piece of cheese or a biscuit or a piece of hot dog, and I offer it a few more times. I want the dog to get a very clear association. This stuff is not good. I do not like it. So I offered a few more times. Now the dog has told me, hey, I don't like that taste deterrent. So now what can I do? I can use that taste deterrent. I can go and I can spray it on my shoes. I can spray it on the molding. I can spray it on the kids' toys. I can do all that stuff. And what I do with the dog's toys is I make them more appealing. So I might take a little bit of peanut butter and just rub it in here. Okay? Just to get the scent of it. If my dog likes peanut butter, I would put some peanut butter and I would rub it on this one. Just remember, again, to get the scent. I'd rub a little peanut butter on here to get the scent. And then I would take a pair of shoes, some of the kids' toys, a couple other objects, and I would spray the taste deterrent on it. And I would put them all on the ground. So now all of this has the scent, a little bit of a scent of peanut butter, and then there's some other products, some stuff that I don't want the dog to chew on that has the taste deterrent smell. And what this does is it helps your dog learn what's acceptable. Hey, this smells pretty good, I don't want to chew on it. And what's unacceptable. Ooh, that's that nasty smell. I don't want to go anywhere near that. Okay? So that's how you can teach your dog to learn what is okay to chew on. Does that sound good? Okay, now I get questions and you're going to get answers. So, another email, a lot of emails that I was receiving last week, for some reason, were about the Alpha rollover. A lot of, oh, look at that. On cue. On cue. What a smart puppy. The Alpha rollover. Very popular. If you don't know what the Alpha rollover is whenever the dog is misbehaving, the owner is supposed to grab the dog and flip him over on his back and pin him down and hold him there. And this exerts your position as the Alpha. Don't do it. Do not use Alpha rollovers on your dog. They're not good, and a lot of times if you have a bigger dog or even a small dog, you could set yourself up. You could set yourself up for a bite. Your dog can nail you, and I've seen it happen. I used to work at a dog training school. Alpha rollovers are very popular. Grab the dog, flip him over, and I've seen a lot of instructors get in situations where they had the dog pinned, but the dog, they knew if they let go, they were going to get nailed. They were going to get bitten because the dog's sitting there growling, basically saying, I'm going to kick your butt once you let me go. The thing about the Alpha rollover, the reason it became popular is because if you watch two dogs interact, a lot of times when you have a dominant dog and a submissive dog, you'll see the submissive dog go into submissive positions and put his ears back. He'll lick the chops of the other dog. His tail gets tucked tightly between his legs. And then if the dominant dog growls a little bit, the dog becomes even more submissive and he goes over on his back. That's called the Alpha rollover. Here's the kicker. Alpha rollovers are done voluntarily. The dominant dog did not force the submissive dog into that position. The submissive dog did it on his own. So when you grab a dog and force him into that position, the dog, a lot of times, if he has, depending on the dog's temperament and personality, the dog can resist and fight back. And now you're in a situation that you don't want to be in. You do not want to use force to deal with force. Because you know what happens? It escalates. So if you use aggression to combat aggression, it escalates aggression. So the dog's being aggressive, I'm going to get aggressive back. It's going to get ugly. We don't want that to happen. Okay? Now, it is a good idea to get your dog used to going into submissive positions. She's resisting a little bit because she knows she's at the edge here. But a lot of times when I'm working with the dog, I will relax them, okay? And I will get them to go over on their back. All right, as I said, she's resisting a little bit. But this is a submissive position, and I want them to do it voluntarily, okay? And then once they're on their back, then what I'll do is I'll take a few seconds and I'll look in their ears, I'll check their teeth, I'll look at their paws, okay? And it can be a bonding experience. And a lot of times, too, there's chemicals going on in the dog's brain that actually makes them a little bit more submissive towards you. So that is a good thing to do. Next time you're in the living room, kind of sitting on the floor with your dog, you start petting them, they get nice and relaxed. See if they'll voluntarily go over, just a little bit of help from you. If they start resisting, don't push it. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. One of my dogs never did it for me. He's a super dominant dog. It's okay. I need him to. But if your dog does accept it, just go ahead and let him go over on his back, and then, like I said, do some handling exercises. Sound good? So that's the alpha rollover. Again, if you have questions, email eric@amazingdogtrainingman.com. I'll try to answer as many as I can. Don't forget to check out dogtraininginnercircle.com. Okay, great. So that's all we have time for today in this edition of Train Your Dog TV. If you have questions, remember, send them to my email address, eric@amazingdogtrainingman. I can't answer all the questions, but I can try to answer a few, and the ones that I get the most questions about, those are the ones that I'm going to talk about. And last week I got a bunch of questions about chewing. That's why we're going to cover it. Next week, jumping. Huge problem for dog owners. So I'm going to show you how to stop your dog from jumping. And as always, if you want me to answer your question personally, go to dogtraininginnercircle.com. There's a forum, and I answer the questions within 24 hours. Thanks for watching this edition of Train Your Dog TV. We'll see you next week.